I'm so sorry I've been as busy as I've been lately, and I haven't been able to keep up with all of the crazy stuff happening lately as it's happening as I normally would. One of those things that I'm apologizing for is not being able to cover the Republican debate, the second Republican primary debate live. However, it's 18 hours later, roughly. I think it's been less than a day, and CBS News has put out a highlight reel of the second primary debate, so we don't even have to watch all the dead air and like cringe ads and stuff in the meantime, because oh my god, when we had to watch that first one and they played all of the ads for buying gold and like erectile dysfunction pills, it's like, okay, we get it, you know your audience, okay, we get it, we get it, okay? So we won't have to watch any ads for gold or dick pills, thankfully, but we're gonna get some good spicy takes from these Republican dumb fucks, I'm sure. I'm actually interested to see if Ramaswamy ends up coming out of this looking as appealing to the average dumb fuck populist Republican as he did in the previous one, or if he like scuffs it up. Well, I don't think he has any chance of beating Trump, obviously, but I'm curious if he can drain more support from Trump at all, you know? Let's watch. Politics is not this dramatic, dude.
Welcome back to the Ronald Reagan Library and Museum in Simi Valley, California. I'm at O'Keefe, CBS News, inside what they call the spin room. It's going to get crowded, going to get noisy, going to get smelly in here in the coming minutes as members...
It's going to get smelly in here. I like that. I like that a lot. A lot of Republicans here. It's going to get real smelly. It's going to get real stinky in here from all these goddamn Republicans. They don't know how to use deodorant, and most of the guys think wiping their ass is gay.
Members of the various campaigns descend on the room and try to convince us reporters why it is they think their guy did, or their woman, did well tonight. We will be hearing from some of those representatives in the coming minutes, but the exchange tonight, the second so far of the 2024.
Hey, if you think that's bad, most of the husbands don't allow their wives to buy feminine hygiene products because they think it's gross and demonic and feminist.
Presidential campaign cycle for Republicans focused a lot on the economy, on China, on border security, on issues of education, and on the man who wasn't here.
Wait, really? Yeah, probably.
The 46th president of the United States, Donald Trump, repeatedly called out by contenders most eager to egg him on and take him on a stage like this, saying, why wasn't he here tonight? Chris Christie calling him Donald Duck. Ron DeSantis suggesting that he's not here to face the music on issues like abortion rights and government spending. We'll see.
Dude, did you guys see that Donald Trump went to a gun store to hold a Glock? And he was like, I'm pretty sure because he's actively like under investigation, he's not allowed to be given a gun or to even hold a gun, right? Like wasn't that literally illegal? I love the way he held it too. Like hold on. Oh, my legs are all tied up in my blanket. He holds it like this. He's like... This is how he looked holding it. He was like, I don't know why, but he just looks like he's presenting like macaroni art to his mom, you know? It looked really weird. That's the same one, by the way. That's the same like gun that he's holding in the picture. He was holding a Glock 19 in that picture. And he's just... Yeah, gives you some perspective on how small Trump's hands are, by the way, as well. Because that Glock looked pretty big in his hands, and the Glock 19's not that big of a pistol. It's a subcompact.
Whether the former president responds in the coming days, but already his campaign tonight is calling this a boring, somewhat inconsequential affair. We will see whether voters respond as they did to some extent after the first debate by rewarding some of those in the middle of the pack of the others with better support. And the front runner was not here. He was in the suburbs of Detroit, Michigan, which is where we find Chief Election and Campaign Correspondent Robert Costa, who is working late in that time zone tonight as we are out here. Bob, give us a sense of how this went. There are some Democrats tonight at least suggesting it was a low-energy speech. How do you assess it? And ultimately, who showed up to hear from him?
Ed, it's great to be with you. Only wish I could be there in California talking politics with you, but it was intriguing to be here.
It is so funny to me they do that. They do it in California, you know, like the most like cucked state ever. Like California is so cucked and blue-pilled, I can't stand it.
Here in Michigan tonight to see former President Trump address union workers, some non-union workers.
You know, California outright banned concealed carry. Like, it's just pretty much banned. Like, functionally, concealed carry in California is just effectively banned. Can you imagine living in LA and not being able to have a gun in your waistband? I would never. I would fucking never, dude.
At a non-union facility. It was a rainy night here in the Detroit area. Trump was speaking about his own message to working voters, trying to make an overture to them as he works to consolidate his base in the Republican contest. And he also looks ahead to a possible general election rematch against President Joe Biden. And during this rainy night, there was Trump for over an hour talking about some.
I love how, like, based on Trump's shape, like the way that he's like moving his body, you can tell what vocal inflection he's doing. Like when he does that, like when he does this, you can tell he's going many, like he's doing like that thing where he makes his voice more raspy and high pitched. When he like puts his hand on the podium and like leans back a little, you can tell like what vocal inflection he's doing because he's like so telegraphed. Like he's a very you can he's very understandable as like a way of doing impressions of him, both physically and vocally, you know? Yeah, accessible. You know, I feel like you could probably lip read him pretty well.
Some of the themes that go back to his campaign.
Actually, maybe not. He does have lips that look akin to like an anal prolapse, so it is pretty hard to read them. They don't move like normal lips.
2016 and, of course, to his 2020.
Why are they like that? Is that just like the way he talks, or do you think it was like botched Botox or plastic surgery? From this angle, his nose looks pretty crooked. It could be like in like the 1950s or something, he got plastic surgery. I don't know.
20 re-election attempt. This was Trump going back to some of his key themes, key points on trade, on immigration, and all but ignoring the debate. And so you had this front runner in the Republican presidential race talking about his own campaign, making claims, expressing grievances, all while the rest of the field was with you there in California having its own debate. A bit of a surreal scene that was also a microcosm of where things stand in the Republican race.
Bob, let's take a listen to some of what Trump had to say to those workers there in Michigan.
Joe Biden claims to be the most pro-union president in history. Nonsense.
He's literally marching with the auto union workers, by the way. Like he's literally like the worker union that's striking. He's literally he literally went on the picket line with them and like marched with them. Like Joe Biden's policy would arguably Joe Biden's policy, I would argue, has made him the most pro-worker Democrat president possibly ever. Like, Joe Biden, I did not have very high expectations for. I expected him to be like Obama light, honestly. I didn't expect him to even be as progressive as Obama was, even though Obama was obviously not that progressive, you know. I did not expect him to go above and beyond my expectations the way he has, with how arguably for the Democratic Party radical some of his policy decisions have been. Like, he's been pretty on top of it, and his messaging has been great as well. Like, he's not perfect. He's not Bernie. He's not a socialist. He's not like passing laws that make homelessness illegal, you know, and not like illegal for the homeless, but like literally like the concept of homelessness gone. Like every homeless person would have access to housing, and it would be illegal to deny them that. I like, he's not doing that obviously, but he's going pretty above and beyond, I'd say.
Hopefully your leaders at United Auto Workers will endorse Donald Trump.
Dude, how can you get that many cheers from people who work in the automotive industry after his steel tariffs, dude? Donald Trump's steel tariffs on China. And you've got automotive workers cheering? How? Because it's a cult. It's a cult. That's why. It's a cult. They don't care about reality. They don't care. Donald Trump will do things that directly harms them, and they don't care because it's a cult. They gotta clap for daddy.
Because, you know, standard history for years and decades and years, they always endorse a Democrat.
Okay, so that was a sampling of what the former president had to say. Bob, though, I know you've been in touch with operatives on all sides of this debate. You've been in touch with other donors, people watching the debate here in California tonight. Give us a sense.
I do love the fact that it's just well-known fact, just an indisputable, factual, like, statement that 70% of what Trump says is a lie. And then you'll get, like, Trump supporters will say, but like, every politician lies. It's not, that's not, rare or anything. Sometimes politicians have to lie to, for the greater good. And it's like, Donald Trump lies by magnitudes more than the average politician. And the average politician is that's skewed by other Republicans, so it's like, overall, the Democrats, with all their flaws, tend to be honest. The dishonest Democrats are the ones that you know the names of and hate already because they're the dishonest ones. People like Joe Manchin and Kristen Sinema and, what's his name? That other guy. There's a RFK, I think. Yes, thank you. I think it might be RFK. I don't know. The name's blanking for me right now. But there's, like, a handful of Democrats that, like, everybody knows. Oh, and Tulsi. Thank you. Yep, Tulsi, too. But she became a Republican or an independent or whatever. But, yeah, that was prior, though. Like, there's a group of Democrats that we all just kind of, like, know as being the shit ones that are basically Republicans in like, blue clothing. And that's literally it. And we all hate them. Like dinos, Democrats in name only. And that, like, the Democratic Party overall, though, besides that small handful, is magnitudes more honest than the Republican Party could ever be. The Republican Party is fundamentally, foundationally based on lies.
Sense of their impressions, what they liked, what they're concerned about.
It was the full spectrum tonight in terms of reporting. I began the day, Ed, talking to union members from the UAW on the picket line here in Detroit and in the Detroit area. They were marching outside, holding signs, and they were saying that they were going to hold the line, as President Biden urged them to do just a day earlier. So you have all of the economic pain here in Michigan front and center with this auto strike.
No problem.
And then
Philip.
later in the day, you have all of the political pain inside of the Republican Party, at least in the anti-Trump quarters, very visible in the flurry of text messages I was getting during this debate from donors.
I want to see the actual debate. MSNBC, don't you fuck me here.
To the second Republican debate of the 2024 primary, live from the Ronald Reagan Presidential Library in Simi Valley, California.
Joe Biden should not be on the picket line. He should be on the southern border, working to close our southern border, because it is...
Reminder, by the way, like, the vast majority of illegal immigrants in this country are overstaying work visas, so they entered the country legally but are staying here illegally. Like, a infinitesimally small amount of illegal entries to this country happen via the border. The ones that are happening are from people who are not crime affiliated and are not, like, gang or cartel affiliated, because the cartel have planes, boats, and other corruption. Guys, the cartel is basically a military at this point. The cartels, because there's several, in South America and particularly Mexico and what have you, are literally about as armed and equipped as a military. Like, they're more powerful or on, like, equal standing in terms of their, like, military power as the Mexican government and its armed forces and police. They also have so many infiltrators and so much corruption, the Mexican military, government, and police, that it's borderline impossible to handle the problem internally. But this also means that we are very privy to the knowledge that the cartel has all of the resources it needs in order to bring insane amounts of drugs such as fentanyl into this country in insane quantities without needing to like sneak it past the border with mules and shit like that. That's not how it's getting in. The cartel has access to tens, hundreds of millions of dollars worth of resources, okay? They've got guns, they've got planes, they've got helicopters, they've got trucks, they've got boats, they've got submarines, okay? They are not using the border. Building a border wall and quote-unquote securing the border isn't the solution. We need to, if I'm being completely honest, we need to heavily invest into Mexico. We need to invest into Mexico's military, infrastructure. We need to invest in their schooling and in their economy overall. We need to start having more businesses like move their operations into Mexico to create more jobs. We need to help. I don't know what we would need to do to pull this off. I won't claim that I know this bit, but we need to improve the living conditions in Mexico for the people that live there, and particularly improve wages as well, and improve access to fundamental necessary needs of life, such as electricity, running water, waste disposal services, waste treatment, etc. Obviously, these are things you have access to in a lot of Mexico, but certainly not all of it. And we need to bring Mexico a little bit more on par with America in terms of the average person's quality of life if we want to get rid of the cartel issue. People join the cartel because if you go to a city or a town in Mexico and you talk to a little kid and you ask them what they want to be when they grow up, they say they want to be a narco. They say they want to be in the cartel. They want to traffic drugs. Because that's literally the most realistic path to what you would consider success that they have. And they see, drug traffickers as local heroes in a lot of places in Mexico. And it's because in a lot of these places, they're literal villages. You would see them be like, that's not a town, that's not a city, that's not a neighborhood, that's a village. You would look at it and say that is a shanty village. And the people who live there have no other options than crime. If you raise the quality of life for the average citizen of Mexico to that of the average citizen of America, at the very least, then you'll see a lot of the cartel issues go away. And that solves a lot of issues, such as the massive amount of fentanyl and other drugs that are being pumped into our country from the southern border. And when I say the southern border, I mean from Mexico. When they say the southern border, they mean through the southern border, because they're trying to convince people that there are caravans coming across the border.
Unsafe, wide open, and insecure.
Look, I do disagree with something Tim Scott just said. Joe Biden doesn't belong on a picket line. He belongs on the...
And not to mention, if you don't, if you're not affiliated with and not in support of, a cartel that it's in control of your area, then you could be dead, that's a scary thing. So there's also the fear factor that goes into it, on top of the reverence that you would naturally have when your life is the way that it is, and drug trafficking seems to be the most realistic path to success. And most of it is drug trafficking, but the drug trafficking industry entails a lot of human trafficking because they're tied in industries, and on top of that, a lot of human trafficking is used to achieve drug trafficking.
Unemployment line. As President of the United States, I'll be standing with workers all across America, and I'll be standing for the right to work of every American to join a union or not join a union as they decide.
Basically, what that means is we're anti-union. They're emphasizing the not join a union. The Republicans have always been anti-union. They love busting unions. They are anti-worker. This is no surprise. I don't even feel like most viewers of this would agree with... I'm pretty sure most people watching this are anti-union, so I don't know why they're virtue signaling anything pro-union. I guess it's because of the recent strikes, and there's a lot of auto workers that support Republicans because they live in the Rust Belt. But
Government shuts down. Should voters blame populist Republicans? Voters should blame everybody who's in Washington, D.C.
Where's Joe Biden? He's completely missing in action from leadership. And you know who else is missing in action? Donald Trump.
What does missing in action from leadership mean? Like, Joe Biden that day was on the picket line making like headlines for that. That's doing the president stuff. If he was golfing, I guess I'd get it. Donald Trump has done the most golfing of any president in like ever. Like the most off days he took. Like, yeah. DeSantis, oh my God. DeSantis is starting to get the Homer Simpson jowls in real life. You guys see it, right? The Homer Simpson jowls, but literally in real life. He looks like those hyper-realistic renders of Homer Simpson. Like, if he was real, but only from the nose down.
Trump is missing in action. He should be on this stage tonight. He owes it to you to defend his record where they added $7.8 trillion to the debt.
And I want to look at that camera right now and tell you,
national debt, national debt, national debt. Be scared by the word debt. National debt. None of you know what it means. I don't know what it means. No one on the stage knows what it means, but it's a scary phrase, and so we'll just keep repeating it. National debt. Isn't that scary? Democrats make national debt go up. Debt is bad. National debt. So scary. Vote Republican.
Watching, you can't help yourself. I know you're watching, okay? And you're not here tonight, not because of polls and not because of your indictments. You're not here.
If anything, our national debt, particularly with China, is a kind of double-edged sword good thing, if that makes sense. Like, it's a bad thing, but also a good thing. You know what I mean? China, because of our national debt towards them, and the debt is actually more of like what the debt actually is a disparity in how much money we are putting into one country or into other countries compared to how much money other countries are putting into us. It's a very massive simplification of it, but China is our number one trading partner. We are China's number one trading partner. This means we both, America and China, despite our very bizarre, political back and forth, are massively reliant on each other economically. China relies heavily on, us manufacturing a lot of our luxury goods, such as electronics, in China, in order to push forward their increasing rapid industrialization and technological advancement, and like the widening of their they have a lot of people, that like they need the amount of money that America's putting into them, and of course the fact that they're investing so much money into America means they have a vested interest in America succeeding, so that investment can be brought back. That doesn't mean we have to pay them back. It's not like we have to give payments to the Chinese government. That's not how it works. It's not, yeah. A lot of it's just trade deficit, yeah. Our national debt effectively means that countries we're indebted to want us to succeed so that debt doesn't just evaporate. If America goes up and just becomes an anarchy, if we just go up in flames and become like a glass to nothing nation overnight, a lot of countries that were doing business with us in many different ways are going to be kind of screwed over, like America. Jesus Christ, that's not even getting into how much America alone makes up of the global economy. That's a whole other conversation. America makes up, what is it, like 60% of the global economy? Like, I may be wrong. Like, can someone get me the exact figure? I remember it being somewhere in the 60s. Maybe it's the 50s, but it's like a big slice. Enough of a slice that just by looking at the pie chart, you're like, wow, if America just stopped existing, if the US dollar just stopped existing, the entire world economy would literally go up in flames. I heard 70%. That's wild. Not to mention, pretty much every currency in the world is based on the US dollar. Like, the US dollar is the baseline for every currency in the world, right? Except for like a few, obviously. Like, there's a good dozen handfuls of countries that, their currencies aren't aligned with ours. But like, the US dollar is like the baseline for most of the world's currencies, right? There's just so much that goes into why saying the national debt, Like, just the American national debt is just the biggest non-issue for politicians to be virtue signaling about in the world. That's my point, really. Also, we're going to have to wrap this entire stream up in a minute, so let's watch one more clip.
Here tonight because you're afraid of being on this stage and defending your record. You're ducking these things. And let me tell you what's going to happen. You keep doing that, no one up here is going to call you Donald Trump anymore. We're going to call you Donald Duck.
You have said.
I feel like that's where we'll end it there. We'll end it there. That's all we needed. That's all we needed. That is all we needed. The Republican national debate, everybody. The Republican national primary debate. That's it right there in a nutshell.